Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the presentation by Dr. Brian Crissey. But blind, unbiased dowsing. Dowsers have long been plagued by having their personal preferences affect their dowsing results. One often coordinates with another person who asks the question silently while the dowser gets the results. Sometimes that person has preferences that affect results. Now I have developed a powerful new technique that eliminates that contamination effect. It's done with a carefully constructed coordination of dice, dowsing, random numbers, a spreadsheet, and statistical testing. A single dowser can perform the technique and measure the statistical significance of the results. And I've also developed a smartphone app to support the method. Without further ado, Dr. Brian Crissey, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having me here. If anybody can't hear me, please raise your hand on the Zoom app if you know how to do that. I will presume that you can hear me and see me. If you have any issues, put your questions into the chat room if you'd like. And looks to me like I've got to put the handouts back out there, so hold on for just a second. There's handout number 1 coming. And you want to get a hold of these and print them out if you can and have them available during the talk. We will be using them. There are 8 of them. I'll put them out there in order by number. Okay, here goes the last one. And everything should be all set at that point. You should see 8 handouts there. So might take a minute or 2 for them to upload. Excuse me. Meanwhile, let's get underway. I'm Dr. Brian Crissey, a longtime member of ASD. I've talked here before. Today it's remote. I'll be talking about the blind unbiased dowsing system, or BUD, which is a connection, as dowsing is, between the apparent world of 3 dimensions in time and the subtle realm, which is where all the good action happens. So let me start by just saying, take a grain of salt with everything that I am saying. This is my philosophy. All I have on all of this is my best estimate of what's going on, which might change with every new piece of information. We don't know what's coming tomorrow, what further insights we will have. So we are going to withhold our judgment here. This is guidance from John Perkins. Humanity's collective unconscious contains the knowledge of all past and future events, and dreams and dowsing are keys to tapping into a vast library of information. Let me get back to where I need to be here. Okay, the plan today is to do 6 15-minute segments, which you'll see differentiated in the presentation. We'll introduce things. We'll talk about dowsing accurately, understanding the math. We'll do a comfort break. We'll talk about the blind unbiased dowsing system. Then we'll see BUD in action. And there'll be a mini quiz at the end of each section, which you don't have to worry about, because I'll give you the answers. And nobody's taking notes on how well you're doing. All right, here's our introduction, section 1. This is what you'll need. You want to get your best dowsing pendulum and a surface to dowse on. So however you best do it, be available for that. Optionally, you might want to have a dice. That's another way of operating the system. And these are the 8 handouts that you should find in the chat room. And we will go through them from time to time in order. So you may proceed with that in that order. This is the first handout. This is your quiz answer sheet. There's 6 quizzes here. And when you get to a quiz, if you print this out, you can just mark your answers. And you can use this quiz dowser to help you find answers, answer A, B, and C. Almost all of them are 3-answer multiple choice questions. And you'll have fun with them, I think, and probably be surprised at some of the things you thought you knew and didn't. So we will get to that. This is why I'm a bit different from a lot of folks. 1962, I had a close encounter with an Arcturian, apparently Arcturian craft, can't prove anything. Southern Wisconsin, there was a blue light that came down on me. I lost time. I never tasted beer or drugs. I was only 16, or multiple witnesses. And there was repeat performance the next night with 2 other people. The first inference we make from this is that the craft was aware of us, like you have when you know somebody's staring at you and your hair goes up in the back of your neck. It was like that. Their technology is far in advance of us. Let me get back to here. If they had wanted to hurt us, they could have, but they did not. So they intend us no harm. So we can relax already. Don't believe all this stuff about alien awful people out there trying to come and eat your gizzard. That just doesn't work. So the second inference we might make from this experience was that we know now that there's an Earth-like planet about 4.2 light years from Earth, which would require about 6,300 years to travel with our technology. So they are using technology that is different from ours. There's much evidence that the non-Earth humans are here, such as the craft that I encountered. So they must be using dimensions that we are only vaguely aware of, but they seem to be there. We certainly could not, at any imagination, we couldn't really get to that planet anyway, and all the others are out there, much further out there. So the guidance that I would suggest is from William Arthur Ward. Curiosity is the wick and the candle of learning. So that experience with me just made me curious. I mean, what was that thing, and why don't I have a class on it in school? Why can't we talk about these things? My partner and wife, Pamela, same summer of 1962, had an encounter with what was apparently a close Pleiadian craft. Looked like this. It waited for about 20 minutes or something above that telephone pole in Reading, Pennsylvania, before it zipped off into space. There's 5 people in the car that watched the whole thing, but the grandmother could not afford to have that idea in her consciousness, so she never admitted that anything happened. So what was possible also here was that the visitors shielded her perception from it because she was too old to really take on such big new ideas. So again, whoever this was did no harm to Pamela and her family, but our perception's not reliable. So Pamela and I had got together at this time, and shortly after that, it was in the summer of 82 or 88, I mean. We got together, we put together Granite Publishing and our imprint, which is Wildflower Press, which got into other things as well. We found over time that these are some of the primary cultivators of the human experiment on planet Earth. Upper left there is your Zeta Grays, a lot of bad press about them, which is really just, most of that is unfortunate and wrong and just intended to scare people. You got the Pleiadians in the upper right there and the Arcturians down below there. Why would anybody want to scare people about these benevolent visitors? That would probably be to keep your defense budget up, because if you're going to be attacked by outer space aliens, you really got to have a bigger budget. So be aware of that. A lot of fake news, false flag operations, all kinds of things going on in that realm. So here is your homework number one. You don't have to do this right now, but you'll find a chart like this in the handouts. And this is a chart of the various visiting or cultivating civilizations from other places that seem to keep an eye on this planet. And when Pamela picked up this chart and just did some dowsing on it immediately, she found that it was coming over here for her to the Pleiadians. And that it's confirmed by other people that have asked this question on her behalf too. When I did it, I came out with the Arcturians, and that was also consistent with what other seers and people have said about my background. So possibly we have cosmic ancestry that doesn't always belong to this planet. So if you want to start a parallel chapter in your life from your DNA ancestry chapter and label this one cosmic ancestry, you can start right here and start figuring out where you came from. Shortly after we met in '88, Pamela and I met Ida Cannonberg, who is passed on now. And through her, a group of what seemed to be intelligent extraterrestrials began to talk to us in real time. They knew us and knew things about us that we had never told Ida or anybody else. So that was interesting to experience. We had many sessions with her and learned many things. One thing that we asked at one point was how people like us could be of greatest service to this troubled world. And the answer was, we need publishers. And our response was, well, okay, we'll be a publisher. So that's the point at which we started Granite Publishing and the major imprint, which is Wildflower Press. And these are the books we've put out in recent times. There's one that's in the pipeline right now about the blind unbiased dowsing system that's in the works. Here's our guidance from Albert Einstein. The only source of knowledge is experience. So you know this. So here's what you want to do at this point. Get out your quiz answer sheet in your dowser and douse the answer to this question. Across all low-income countries on Earth today, what percentage of girls finish primary school? A, 20%, B, 40%, C, 60%. Just mark it on your sheet when you get to that point, and you'll be able to have a record of that. So section 2, moving right along here, dowsing accurately. One thing we have to be a little cautious about is that some people like pendulums because they're pretty. Crystal pendulums, however, can be attracted to nearby crystals of similar composition. You might want to have this experience, set up your dowsing chart and maybe get a, in this case, rose quartz pendulum, and set right by your dowsing chart, maybe another big piece of rose quartz, do some dowsing, and you'll find more often than you would like that dowser is going to be pointing at that rose quartz instead of answering the question that you're after. So be aware of that. This is a pendulum that doesn't have that problem, but it's not metal or anything else, but it is pointed. It's carved out of what's called a Bosnian ball. You can see in that little picture there that this is a huge thing. There's only about 3 places known on Earth where these things exist. One's near the Bosnian pyramid. This was carved out of one of these balls. So it's very powerful, a little bit slower than I am accustomed to, but very powerful, very accurate. Doesn't have to be metal. This is a good one. A general principle here is that you want to put function over form. Form is the beauty of it. Function is what you want. If you're really interested in accuracy, and the reason that you're here doing this dowsing and learning about this is you want the answers. You want accuracy. It doesn't matter how pretty the pendulum is. What you want is the answer. So choose the one that performs the best for you. And you can take any one of your pendulums, and there's a chart in your handouts here on dowsing. It's number number 4, handout number 4 allows you to assess the reliability of any pendulum, and you want to have a pendulum that's assessing up in the upper 90s before you start making any use of it in any good way. So this is what that chart looks like. And let's go back to here. You want to be up here in the 90s. You really don't want to be down here in the unreliable area. You can also pair them off against each other and ask this one how reliable that one is, and ask that one how reliable this one is, and just keep on sticking with the one that wins the battle each time. There's a thing called confirmation bias that we want to avoid. It's rampant in the society right now. It goes like this. You judge because you don't know. You jump to conclusions. And then you start looking for everything that supports that, and you start bad-mouthing everything that doesn't. And if you don't jump to the same conclusion as somebody else, you get into arguments like this couple here. And each one of them says that their pendulum says the other one's wrong. Chances are they started off with the expectation that their pendulum would give them the right answer. That's why they get to this thing. This is in the essence of what much of the political chaos is in the world today. It's confirmation bias. So we want to be aware of it and avoid it. A few years back, we had a friend that was working with us, and this image you see on the left here is called an elemental, and she was guided to create this and give it to us to take to England to create, ask the circle makers, whoever they are, to manifest some crop circles for us, and we're going to use this pattern. So it's a equilateral diamond with a cross, and in each of these quadrants, a couple of circular things. You'll see right here, this is the first one that showed up the very next day after we did this meditation with 18 people. And you can see this matches all of the characteristics that we asked for. This is the communication that came in very clearly to Pamela the morning that she was working with one of these manifested crop circles. So within 2 days, these 3 occurred, and they followed that pattern. Each one, you see the cross shape and the circular thing and the 4 quadrants and all the rest of this. Just by the way, that third picture on the right there, that's a little, that little thing there is a tractor on the right, and a harvester, and that farmer, bless his soul, was defending the earth against the invasion of satanic aliens. So he felt that he had to go out there the morning after that crop circle appeared and just mow it all down. That happens a lot. I think that was a bad idea, but that's what he did. So in order to understand how unusual this was, we need to talk about dice a little bit, and we won't get into so much detail as to bore you all to tears. Oh, too late. Well, okay. If you throw a dice once, the probability of getting a particular face, like 3, is a 6th. And if you have throw 2 dice and get a pair, that's a probability of 2.7%, which is significant because it's considered significant if it's less than 5% that occurs naturally. If you throw 3 dice and get 3 of the same face, that only happens 0.5% of the time, highly significant. So the question is, what is the equivalent probability of these crop circles showing up like this? And again, you don't have to observe or understand the mathematics here, but it can be computed. What I did was I figured out the frequency with which crop circles like this occurred in England that were recorded at the crop circle connector, which is one of the major places where records are made of crop circles. And I found that about 5% of the formations that have ever been reported did have a equilateral diamond-shaped cross sort of thing that would maybe fit the requirements that we had put out there. So now we've got 3 in a row, each of which is 1/6 probability. So what we have is 1/6 to the how many times is the same as 1/20th cubed. That is, this cubed is 1, 2, 3, 1/20th times 1/20th times 1/20th. And that equals how many dice thrown. And you do the math here, you find out you had to throw 4 dice, all with the same face, in order to have the same probability, the highly significant probability of that we saw there. So we asked for the crop circles that came in. The appearance of them was highly significant. 4 like that, that'd be 0.08% of the time would you expect to throw 4 dice and get that. So that means that what was going on there was not random, can't be explained away by chance. So this was showing us that we were doing manifesting. So 3 consecutive crop circles, probably 5% each, cannot be explained as a chance event. Something intelligent is talking to us. The crop circles are communications. Perhaps we should listen. And I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, but if we had listened on August 11th of 2001, perhaps the events of 9/11 might have been different. This was available to us on August 11th of 2001. We ignored it. No scientists came rushing over to look at it or anything. And 9/11, we started that whole process there. So here's your second homework. You can do this later. Take your best Dowsing pendulum and get handout number 6 in the chat room, which has the 6 sectors. Intend your pendulum to go to a particular one. See that it does. Change your target. Do it again. You can make your pendulum go where you want because you are a powerful manifester. So, so just off to the side, some guidance here. And that is worry is the least effective use of manifestation. Stop worrying problems into existence and start manifesting a better world. We need your help. Here's your second quiz. Dow's the answer to this. In the last 20 years, the proportion of the world's population living in extreme poverty has done what? It's almost doubled. It's remained more or less the same. It's almost halved from what it used to be. And by the way, you can grade your own quiz here around regarding quiz 1. 60% of girls in poor countries finish primary school. So we'll get an answer to quiz 2 in a short while here. Okay, so we'll go one more section before we have a break. We got to go into the math. Don't get too upset about this. Y'all remember the devil on your shoulder and all that. The angel says sing, and the devil says you can't sing. So here we're gonna have some math, and that little devil is going to say you can't do math. You hate math. Well, what did Vincent van Gogh say about this? He said, if you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. So we'll do some math just to get that voice out of your head. So we will do these necessary statistical understandings. Already done a little bit of probability with dice, but anyway, hang in there, grin and bear it. You'll survive. It'll be an okay thing. You'll be able to look back at it and know that you've been through some heavy things here. So let's go back and get where we need to be here. Okay, the first idea that we have to cover is the word significance. And significance has to do with how important something is. This tail, this red area in the tail of this bell curve, we're all familiar with the bell curve. This is where the average is out here and the tails, and 2/3 of everything's out here in the middle. And significance means that if you have an observation where the probability P, which is that area under the curve there to the right of the observation, if that area there is greater than 5%, it's insignificant. That means the observation's out here and you got a big old fat tail. If it's less than 5%, like here, it's considered significant. And if you go way out in the tail and the area is less than 1%, that's highly significant. So that's what we're looking for, at least 5% significance. So let's look at coin tossing. These are unbiased coins. We flip a coin and probably getting ahead is 1/2. Which we all understand, nothing deep about this. The probability of 2 heads is a half of a half, or 25. And it's still insignificant because 25% is a lot bigger than 5%. We toss another coin, we get 3 heads in a row. And we're up to a half of a half of a half, 12.5%, still insignificant. You can't prove anything with that, but it is there. So then we look at 4-coin tossing. Half of a half of a half of a half, down to 6.25%. It's still insignificant, but getting close. Now you flip 5 coins and you get 3.12%, and that's less than 5%, so it's significant. That is, something's not random going on here. You flip 7 coins, they all turn out to be heads. Well, that's highly significant. Something going on there. Why are we doing this? You'll find out in a minute. Don't get blown away by this. This is the binomial distribution in probability and statistics. N is the number of coins that you're tossing. K is the number that came up heads, for example. P is the probability of getting a head, which is a half. Q is also the same thing, it's 1 minus P. This probability formula here tells you how likely it is to, for example, get 25 heads out of 81 coins being tossed. That's this very tiny little number here. And why are we doing this? Well, before we get into that, here's another quiz question. Dow's this. There are 2 billion children on Earth today, according to the UN. How many children will there be in 2100? Almost twice as many as today, more or less the same, almost half as many. Well, you answer your quiz and mark it down. But the answer to quiz number 2 is the proportion of the world's population living in extreme poverty has almost halved. The world is getting better. Don't let people tell you otherwise. When I was working for the National Academy of Sciences in the mid-70s, there was an experiment that I came across that was run by the Stanford Research Institute, in which they were trying to determine whether remote viewing actually happens or not. Is that a real thing? And what they found was this. They took, let me get back here. Okay, they took one subject and put them in a Faraday cage. If anybody knows what that is, it's just a box that you can't hear through, see through. You can't send the radio through it. Nothing gets through that in any known means of communication. So you're totally incommunicado. The second subject went to one of 9 random target sites where he'd go off on his trek, and he would throw dice or something and figure out which random envelope to open. He'd open it, he'd go to that site, and he would see it. And when he was looking at it, subject A would sketch what occurred to him. There's the Golden Gate Bridge. Down here in the lower right is a sketch made by a good remote viewer. And then professional judges were called in to match up the sketches with the targets. And any particular sketch could be matched up with one of the 9 targets with a probability of 1 in 9. And so it's a fairly easy thing once you have a result to figure out the probability that that thing occurred by chance. So here's what we have. These are the 9 targets across here. These are the 9 descriptions down this way. And along this green diagonal here, these are the numbers of remote view sketches that properly identified the target that they were really intended to identify. And what you find is you expect 9 hits because of the numbers here. There were 25 hits out of a total number of trials of 81. So what's the probability of, by random, getting 25 hits out of 81 when the probability is 1/9 of any one being right? Well, you go through that awful formula that we had there, and the probability of this occurring by chance is this thing here. Some of you might recognize that from Excel, 8e to the minus 10. What that is 8 times 10 to the minus 10. What is that? Well, it's very small. It's virtually impossible that this occurred by chance. So something was going on. So how likely is that little tiny number? 8 times 10 to the 10th looks like that. 8 times 10 to the minus 10 looks like that, very tiny. A penny or a typical coin is about 0.06 inches thick. A stack of pennies would be 75,500 miles high, which is 3 times around the Earth. And this probability of 8 times 10 to the minus 10th is the likelihood of picking out randomly one particular coin from such a stack. Virtually impossible. Would happen once in a while, but only 1 in 80 billion times. So what was happening there was they were demonstrating that the remote viewing is real. So let's look at what this means. This is the bell curve again. And what we have over here is the number 8 times 10 to the minus 10th is way off the curve, way out there, virtually indistinguishable from 0, meaning that this does not happen by chance. So what's the inference here? It's virtually certain that anyone, anybody in this room, and anybody else for that matter, can access information about events that have not yet occurred because we just saw it demonstrated. So time is not linear and science needs to be updated. There's some major updates that are coming here. Our author, Raymond Fowler, put out this book recently on time slips, there where there's breaks in the time-space continuum. At one point, he went down his basement stairs and he found that he saw himself. He was kind of paralyzed, couldn't move, but he saw himself at the other side of the room doing some things. And later, a week or two later, he was actually down there dressed the same way, doing the same thing. So it's kind of a deja vu thing, which is also a time slip. So there's hundreds of examples like that. So time is not what we think it is. It's not plodding forward 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. That's an apparition. We make that up. Time is not like that. Another quiz. Okay, Dowsing answer to this. How have the number of deaths from natural disasters on Earth changed over the last 100 years? More than doubled over that time? About the same? Maybe decreased to less than half? Dow's your answer and put it down. Here's your answer to quiz number 3. According to the UN, there will still be 2 billion children by 2100. So all this chatter about, let's see if we can pause here. All of this chatter about all these children from the third world taking over, and we're just going to have a total population explosion. Well, that doesn't seem to match with the facts. So let's stay out of the fake news stuff, and we will be here working with a world that has about the same number of children in the year 2100 as we do right now, according to the best experts at the United Nations. So anyway, if you need to take a break, then let's do that. And I will break with you. And so we'll be back here another 3 or 4 minutes and pick up and carry it on from there. So if you have any questions during this break or any other time, put them into the chat room where we can see them. And okay, a couple of people say they don't see the handouts. If you don't see the handouts in the chat room, then and you've waited long enough for them to load, then please put your hand up, and we will see what's on there. If you came in after the presentation started, you won't see those handouts. So I will repost them. So this is what we will do then. I will repost those handouts, and you go ahead and get them if you have access to a printer. Then go ahead and print them out. Okay, what do we have here with Zoom? Okay, I don't know why it was blinking at me. So let's got handout 1 and 2 there. Let me go ahead and put 3 there. And now I'll put out handout 4. And number 5, we're getting into the heavy stuff here. And there is 6. And there is 7. And there is 8. Okay, I've reposted the okay, one says, just so you know, nothing is appearing. Does anybody see any handouts? Am I the only one that sees the handouts? It takes a little while to load them up. I will click on mine, and there I see that one. Let me make sure that we are sharing. I'm going to stop that share and share this. So we're on the comfort break. And okay, you should see that. If you click on handout number 1, it should come up with the quiz answer sheet like that. So if you're still having trouble, put your comments in the chat room, and we will deal with that in the near future here. So I'm going to proceed with the presentation here at the comfort break. Okay. Now we should be seeing this comfort break, and we're at about 5 minutes past where we said we would be when we took the break. So when it gets to 11:28, we will start up again. Should be coming right up on it. T minus 10, 9, 8, 7. Drink of water is always good. Okay, there we go. So let's proceed into section 4. And you should see the blind unbiased dowsing screen. And so there's an issue with dowsing that we will deal with here, and that is this manifestation thing. You saw how we manifested crop circles in England. And it's often said that clarity plus alignment plus action equals manifestation. You put all that together and you can make the pendulum go where you want. We are powerful, but that means we can mislead ourselves. So how do we dowse reliably? That's the question. The seed for me was the remote viewers at Stanford Research Institute now 50 years back. They showed that probability can be used to find truth, hence the bud system emerged from that. So let's do some dowsing here. You should all know how to prepare for dowsing. I'll go through this briefly because somebody might not. Anyway, today you need to forget everything you thought you knew. That's to get rid of preordained a priori assumptions and things like that. Wear natural clothing when you're dowsing if you can. Hydrate, center yourself and pay attention. Silence your devices and other distractions. Sit comfortably, feet on the ground, back erect. Breathe deeply in 3 times through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow your chi to flow evenly through your chakra system. Honor your best pendulum. and thank your unseen allies for assisting you in this dowsing exercise. This is the idea of blind unbiased dowsing. We looked at the bell curve a little while ago. If Stanford Research Institute showed that remote viewing experiments can be treated as statistical trials, then so can dowsing experiments. The remote viewing experimenters knew the answers, the targets that the people were supposed to be sketching out of the Faraday cage, but we don't know our answers. But we can detect statistically significant events, like those 3 crop circles in a row. And let's go back here a minute. So each dowsed outcome is a trial, and we can compute the probability that the outcome could be explained by chance. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose a query, like a question to douse on. This one is, what's the truth about human origins? We've all seen this progression from pond slime to a modern human. What is the truth of that? We have 6 alternatives here. Almost always I'll have the first one being can't say and the last one being other. The first one is there because sometimes we just choose the wrong words. We said one thing, we meant another thing. It's, you know, we didn't understand enough to really accurately get the question. That whole session that you saw earlier on getting the question right. If we don't have the question right, sometimes we just can't say. So you have to leave that option in there. Then at the bottom here, other, that's in case we have not thought thoroughly enough or widely enough about the options that could apply here. And we have to maybe think that there's something other than what we're thinking about here. These are the 4 principal options that were identified for the truth of human origins. Maybe the extraterrestrials seeded the various races. Maybe God made Adam and Eve and we're all in the same family tree. Maybe God made humans 6,000 years ago and made everything else. Or maybe humans evolved spontaneously. Well, those are different possibilities. So in the, I'll go back here a minute. In the app that we are creating, there is this invisible table. It'll be visible today so that you can use it, so you see how it works, but it will be inside the app and not available. So what we're going to do is we're just going to allow the universe to help us find the answers. We're going to dowse which column has the right answer in it and which row in that column is the one that has that right answer. So also involved with this process is this significance versus certainty. And we talked about significance, the 5% and less and so on, but it's kind of backwards. So we're going to use certainty, which is just 1 less, 100% minus the significance. So this is a real case that happened here. There was a woman that injured her eye and went through some surgery to repair it, and it was not going as fast or as well as she'd like. So the question is, which of these options here is the best description of the client's condition? Of course, can't say another, but option number 2 is it will stay like this. It's permanent like this. Sorry, lady, your eyes are like this forever. Option 3, it'll be up and down, but it will be gradually healing. It'll get better over time. And we'll go back to here, or maybe she needs more surgery, or it will heal perfectly in time. In any case, what happened is, as we went through this process very carefully, we had 3 out of 5 trials saying it was option 3. And if you look at the probability of that, we'll see that table next, that certainty is over 97%. So it's highly significant that the bud system was saying that her eyes were going to be better and worse for a while, but with gradual healing. As it turned out, that's exactly what happened. And she continues to gradually heal today. So here we have, this is one of your handouts in which you can look at, it's, let's see, it's number, whatever it is, we'll find it out there, number 6, and 6 choices. So if you're doing this with dowsing, get tuned into it as you normally would do dowsing. And you're going to douse or throw a dice for the column, douse or throw a dice for the row. You can use these combinations too, a dice and a dowser, two dice, as long as you're careful about it. But here, finding column 1 and row 2 gives you this number, which says that option 2 is the one that is suggested here by the universe operating through the universal system here. And in this case, it was a question about human origin. Well, it's option 2, ETs seeded the various races. So we would do this as many times as we need to. And what we would do is use a Bud worksheet. This is probably the most important of the handouts. You can go back later and print out more of these or something if you want. But you'd fill in your name and date and the project name and all that, and fill in the query, look at the options, put them in there. You've got the significance table here. You've got your recording of your progress chart here. And let's look at one in action here. Okay, this one is how are restrictive legal terms best interpreted? Well, each time you go through, like this first one, column 3, row 2, and it turns out, according to that table we just left, it's option 3. And then we got column 2 and row 2, it gave option 2, and then we got option 6, and here's another 2. Then we got 3. We got 3 2s here in 5 trials. And if we look over here, 3 hits in 5 trials, that's 96.8%. That's over 95% certain. So that is the best answer to that question. Use the dictionary, define the terms that way. And that was another real case, and that's what we did. Here's the certainty table. This one right here is 3 hits out of 5 trials, 96.8%. So that's one of your handouts. You want to have that available to you when you're doing the system. Another quiz, time for a quiz. Okay, Dowsing answer to this. Worldwide, 30-year-old men have spent 10 years in school on average. How many years have 30-year-old women spent in school? 9 years, 6 years, 3 years? What is it? Douse it, put it down. Meanwhile, you can grade your answer to quiz 4. It's C, the number of annual deaths from natural disasters has decreased to less than half over the past 100 years. The world is getting better. So let's look at Bud in action. Here's the first topic. What is the truth about human origins? Did ETs see the various races? Did God make Adam and Eve? Did God make everything 6,000 years ago? Did humans evolve spontaneously? Well, you can put that into the chart, and this is a record of 8 trials. Trying to find an answer here, but I wouldn't put a lot of confidence on this. But in this case, we got 3 hits out of 8 for these 2 options. Either ETs seeded the various races or God made Adam and Eve. So it's high. It's like almost 90%, but that's still not above 95%. So I would suggest with this question, what you would do is get yourself and maybe a few other people together, get into a good place with it, relax, get rid of your distractions, focus on it, and carefully go through some trials with this, see what columns and rows you come up with, see what options you come up with. And when you start seeing repetitions, like numbers more than 1 in this column here, that's when you need to go back to the certainty table and keep looking for things. This came close, 3 out of 8, about 90%, but still not something to write home about. Here's another topic. What's the truth about Sasquatch? These are the 4 primary options that came up here. They're men in costumes. Sasquatch is non-existent. Sasquatch is psychic and interdimensional, or Sasquatch is an undiscovered ape. This is what came up when I just put some preliminary things in there. I got 3 hits out of 8. Again, it's that 89.6% that you just can't say. Why couldn't we say? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's, I mean, there's Yetis and all kinds of things. What do you mean by Sasquatch? I mean, you could probably do a better a question there than what I have. But for what the question is, it kind of suggests that, well, we don't really know about this one. Here's another topic. What is the truth about God? One of the major religions has it right. There's a bearded, judgmental white man in heaven. It's a misinterpretation of the ET presence, or maybe there's no God at all. So I put a few things together here, and this one got to be kind of scary. I got 89.6% certain that there's a bearded, judgmental white man in heaven. So I personally don't believe that, but it is kind of evidence that I'm not pushing the outcomes that I want onto the system. I really don't think that is the way it is, but you know, maybe you do, and maybe it is. But in any case, again, I would suggest anything that doesn't have absolute certainty on it. I would say take the time, print out one of these worksheets, and write your query in there, write your options in here, clear all this out, douse or dice your column rows. Excuse me. Figure out what option is being identified here and look for the biggest number, look up the certainty of it, and put it down. Here's another topic. What about Nessie? Loch Ness Monster. Is she a figment of people's imagination? Is it maybe a mistaken identity? There's a log floating out there and people thought it was something. Maybe it's a surviving remnant dinosaur. Maybe it's just a tourist attraction. In my case, throwing out a few random numbers here, I found that all of these, mistaken identity, surviving dinosaur, tourist attraction, are all equally likely, but none of them are significant answers from this system right now. Again, it would be a lot better to actually put a lot of focus on this and do it carefully and do it until you get significance. Okay, topic 5, what's the truth about reincarnation? We are eternal spirits in physical bodies on a karmic wheel. It's one time through and then you go to heaven or hell. Or we reincarnate on earth until we get it right. Or we choose our next life to learn what it is we need to learn that we didn't quite learn this time. So you put those out, what'd that look like? Well, interestingly, very significant, above 95% certainty, but it's other. Like these are not quite right according to the system right here. So it's an interesting thing. I would have thought we were eternal spirits in physical bodies in a karmic wheel, but then that's my position, and this is not to fool anybody or change anybody's mind, but it was interesting that there's a thought here that maybe those options are not as thorough as they might be. Topic 6, there's a ruin in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe. And recently there was a news story that the mayor of that city claims that the ancient city was created by aliens. That was his position. There are the things. What happened when you put those in there, put a few random numbers there and try it out? Well, again, it comes out here. And this one, it's again, not quite 95% or anything, so it's not totally significant, but we've got to be a little bit more careful about what these options are that might explain what happened there. Topic 7. Why has more than 3/4 of all insect biomass disappeared in the last 30 years? Is it pesticides and glyphosate? Is it loss of habitat? Is it GMOs, genetically modified organisms? Is it climate change and floods? Well, there are the lists. And we got a couple that 74%, kind of suggestive, but again, no real significance there. Here's an interesting topic. Which Americans deserve reparations? No one. Or all descendants of slaves. Or this is the interesting one, descendants of black slave owners. There were black slave owners. What about that? Well, the one that came up with a very high certainty, 97%, was Native Americans. I mean, think about that. You know, before you start giving money away to anybody, think of what we did to the Native, we collectively as a society did to the Native Americans. So here is a a question that actually had some currency April 18th. I ran a workshop on these topics for ASD remotely, and we went through the whole process. We had people do the BUD system on these options, and we got some high significance on number 3 there, that the reality that we think we see is a holographic projection from a higher dimension, as you see here. We are living in this projection. So we got 97.4% on that from the workshop. We did one question in that workshop, and then we were going to do more of them in the workshop section here at the ASD annual conference, but we're selling our property and we didn't have time, and long it's expensive to get up there and it takes a couple of days to drive, and who wants to fly, and so we canceled the workshop. So we didn't do the work that we intended to do on these other questions, but we did do the nature of reality back in April, and it seems to be that we might want to start thinking about we are living in a holographic projection from a higher dimension. So time for one more quiz, as long as we're talking about Native Americans. Dow's this. About how many indigenous Americans were killed by violence and disease after 1492, according to a recent study? Was it around 5 million, 55 million, 100 million? Dow's it, A, B, or C? Fill in your quiz. And the answer to quiz 5, worldwide, women have spent 9 years in school, only 1 year less than men. So keep that in mind. This is the answer to our last quiz. Following Christopher Columbus's arrival in North America in 1492, violence and disease killed 90% of the indigenous population, nearly 55 million people. So in conclusion here, before we get to questions and such, we can say that from the confluence of 3 great rivers of ancient thought, ancient wisdom like Dowsing, revised science as we get into more dimensions in order to get off this planet, new understandings of spiritual truth that are coming into new currency today. Out of all this comes new understandings via the blind, unbiased dowsing system. Here's some guidance. Dowsing is structured daydreaming. And finally, from Oscar Wilde, a dreamer is one who can only find his way by moonlight, and his punishment is that he sees the dawn before the rest of the world. So hopefully we are in that situation of seeing the dawn before some others see it. Because I think a lot of folks are maybe looking at in the wrong direction for the dawn. Anyway, that is the primary run through of the presentation here. So I'm going to stop the share for the moment, and let's get back to okay, nobody sees anything, is that right? Nobody got any handouts? Did anybody see any handouts on the chat room? If you have seen any of the handouts on the chat room, so we load them out there and nothing happens. Is that what happened? Does anybody see them listed here? Can anybody see the chat room? Can you see any of the handouts that were put there? Yes, no? Is anybody alive? Did they bore everybody to tears? Okay, can't see any handouts. There are none. Well, here's what you can do. I'm going to put my email address here. That's my email address. Email me for handouts if you don't have them. So I don't understand how we can put them all out there twice and nobody sees any of them. But just email me with a request and I will send you all those handouts today. and then you can work through them when you get a chance. Okay. Does anybody have any questions at this point about what we did and didn't do, and what I said and didn't say, and what I said wrong and left out, and anything like that? Okay. Well, I will stay here and see if any questions comes up. Okay. The question was, what's your email?
Where do we find it out?
Say what?
The question is, where do they find your app?
It is in development. It's not out yet. Okay. But it's coming along. And it'll be the easiest way to do this, because all of this mathematics will be under the inside the app and invisible. So I put my email out there. It says to host. Oh, maybe this is it. I've got to, this is what it is. I've got to go to everyone instead of just the host and the panelists. So we will do that again. And that's where the handouts went. Okay, going to everyone, there's my thing. So I will go ahead and post them again, but this time going to everyone instead of just the panelists and so on. Okay, so I will put that out there. And I'm sorry I messed up on that, and I didn't observe that I wasn't sending my stuff out to everybody. I should know better than that. Okay. So there are 3 handouts, and there's pendulum reliability. And here comes number 5. There's the worksheet. If you only get one, get this number 5. Well, you'll actually need more than that, because you do need to do the significance issues. So there's the intersection Dowser. And here's 7 intersection lookup. And the last one coming, okay, right there. We'll say download and print and use the 8 handouts. Okay, well, that was my mistake. Sorry about messing that up. But you should have been given handouts. You could raise your hands if you were given handouts here at the conference. You should have been given handouts here at the conference. Who did not get any handouts here at the conference? Raise your hand. Okay. They should be available there. Lisa Lacoste should have them, or somebody. There.
Lisa should be able to print additional copies. We just simply didn't have enough copies for the room.
Okay.
And, I think 3 individuals were left out.
All right. Well, if there's a printer available to anybody, or just do it later, or is there a Xerox machine? Any of those would work. So you'll need to be a little bit familiar. You can forget about 1 and 2 right now. That's about the quizzes and all that. But the rest of them, 3 is later, is cosmic ancestry. And pendulum reliability, that's not essential right now, but basically you want the 5 through 8. The last 4 would be very handy to have as you run through this. Okay, the question is from, how do you pronounce your name? Is it Ajoa, Iowa? Ifateo. wants to know, he or she wants to know, I would be interested in how this can be used to douse how people process information that is fake news. Yes, fake news is very relevant to this. And what you can do is you can get into an issue that is current in the news and so on. And you find that what quickly happens is the two sides jump to conclusions, and then they disregard everything that disagrees with them, and they repeat what does agree with them 10 times, and then they get into a fight, and then pretty soon you got political parties, and it's all a mess, and everybody feels bad. So the fake news is out there, and what you would do is choose an area that has these positions. And you can't really tell what is and is not fake news until you do something like this. But what you would do is get into the question, the query then would be which of the following is the closest rendition of the truth, and then the four major possibilities in there would be presentations of the positions that people are expressing in the social media or wherever. And you should have one that's extreme one way and one's extreme the other way, and a couple in the middle that are kind of representative of some more centrist positions. And then go through the dowsing process with Bud and get out your charts and all that stuff, and get yourself centered and feet on the ground and all the rest of this. And then you ask about which is the column that has the best answer, and you get that column. In that column, which is the row that has the best answer, you find that. That's your first answer. So you look that up in the list of positions that are being looked at here, and you mark that down. There's one. You do it again, you do it again, you do it again, alone or with friends or in a group. All of those work. And every time somebody goes through the process and suggests that the one that's closest to the real truth is whatever it is, mark that down and keep looking at your certainty table until you get 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6 or something like that that begins to get into the significant area. And as you get into the significance, then you have some understanding, a little bit more understanding, I think, of how to sort out the fake news. Because what we find, I think, in my opinion, in today's world is that we don't any longer have any respect for experts and footnotes and books in libraries and all the rest of that, the things that we used to depend upon. And we've come to a point where anybody that wants to make up anything, it's as good as anybody else. Because all you have to do is say, well, the experts don't know anything, and then it's your opinion against theirs. It's all equal and open. And so you can use a process like this to sort those out and then find the ones that are most likely to be closer to the truth. Of course, none of us know the truth, and we should really admonish ourselves if we start telling anybody that we do know the truth about anything, because look at what we just came out of here with. We're probably living in a holographic projection from a higher dimension. So how real is this reality that we think we are in? Sometimes I, just for my own amusement, think that maybe what we're looking at here with our reality, we think it's flesh and blood and real and all this, but what I suspect a lot of times is that this is some kind of a reality show for angels. You know, they sit around, they poke around, they do things, and they make humans think this and dance that way. Hey, I bet you what's going to happen if we did that, and they do this, and they're in control. It's not necessarily angels, but it could be the extraterrestrials, could be spiritual beings, and all of the above. But I think there's at least some of them out there that like to kind of poke around at us, because we are the most interesting thing in the neighborhood. We are the people that don't know anything. We think it's all 3D and time, and that time is linear. And there's so much that we don't know. And it's kind of fun, I think, to have, if you were an advanced civilization, to watch what we're doing. Did any of you happen to see that that white orb over the Queen's Parade during the 70th anniversary celebration in London? You know what I'm talking about? Anybody see that? Go back if you want to, and you can Google it or go into YouTube and look for it. It's out there. Look for Queen Elizabeth's 70th celebration, white orb flying over Queen's Parade, anything like that, it'll come up. And it's very clear. Once you see it, it's really interesting. It is very unlikely to have been done in Photoshop or iMovie or something like that. This is probably, in my humble opinion, and I don't know anything, I think this is an observation point where some of the cultivating civilizations find it very interesting to see what humans do. And this is the kind of thing they do. They get all these people together and they dress up in these costumes and they get these red, white, and blue smoky jets flying over. And it's just a real spectacle. You know, they don't do that on Mars much or anyplace else. I mean, this is a human thing on Earth. And so I think they watch us. Once you start being aware of the orbs out there, you'll find that there's a long history of them. And they often appear at very interesting times when, from an outside point of view, it might be interesting what is going on. Okay. Yeah. Reality show for angels, great thing to ponder. Yeah. That's as close a way to explain a lot of this as anything else, because I think a lot of this is definitely not us. You know, we're not setting this stuff up. We're just kind of bouncing down through the cosmic jukebox or something on our way, our balls bouncing around and so on. So any other questions or thoughts that you had? I like the question about the fake news. That was good. Anything else? Well, I will be here. Oh, there's the orb video. I'll bring that up and share that screen so you'll just see it right now. Okay, here it is. I'm going to share this, and let me get to here, and let me share a screen, and let me see where it is. Okay, right here. I'm going to share that, and yeah, take a good seat and watch this. Maybe it's down here. Here we go. Yeah, I'm going to maybe make this bigger. Maybe I'll go with it.
Welcome to Clint's Stranger Zone. Some people are convinced they spotted a UFO during the Queen's Jubilee festivities. Let's check out the footage. Last Thursday, the UK kicked off its 4-day-long celebration of the Queen's 70th year as monarch. While flying in formation, 9 Royal Air Force jets blasted through the sky, dispensing long red, white, and blue smoke streams. However, official flypast footage appears to show an anomaly zooming across the sky behind the planes. Some believe the UFO was an alien craft that appeared over Buckingham Palace to salute the Queen's epic 7 decades upon the throne. However, the skeptical viewers suggest it was simply a stationary object that appeared to be moving, also known as the parallax effect. One final theory is the orb was simply a rogue balloon, given the nature of the event. Well, what are your thoughts? Share them in the comments, like and follow for more.
Well, there you go. So that was the orb. Some of these explanations remind me, go back into the history of UFOs and all that, you know, swamp gas way back, trying to explain away alien craft and so on. Some of these, like balloon, you know, I mean, these were jets flying by and it was going at the same speed as the jets. You know, balloon, really? But who knows? We can't prove it or disprove it. So, but it was something. Keep an eye on it. Okay, anything else? Let's see if there's, okay. And very good. So again, if you, I have one email here for Susan Collins. I'll send the handouts to her. Anybody else that needs the handouts sent, go ahead and put your email on there and I'll get those to you. Otherwise, I think you're up for an early exit to the lunch, and you take it from here. Appreciate having you here.